Have you ever wondered why some people are effortlessly respected, while others seem to be constantly ignored or even humiliated? This can happen anywhere, at work, among friends, in the family. We are often confronted with situations in which someone tries to diminish us, test our limits, or simply treat us with disdain. The big question arises, how do we react intelligently and without losing our dignity? How do we position ourselves so that others naturally view us with respect? Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's greatest thinkers, spent his life reflecting on human nature, social behavior, and the search for autonomy. And according to him, respect does not lie in what we demand of others, but in how we behave and position ourselves in the world. Respect cannot be imposed. It is a direct reflection of the way we conduct ourselves and the image we project. Schopenhauer believed that true power comes from self-sufficiency. That is, the more you master your emotions, your gestures, and your words, the more influence you have over others. Before learning how to react to disrespect, it is essential to understand why it happens. Throughout his work, Schopenhauer observed that most people do not act on the basis of pure reason, but are guided by primitive emotions, self-interest, and insecurities. Often, the disrespect we receive has nothing to do with who we are, but rather with the weaknesses of those who treat us badly. According to the philosopher, society is full of individuals driven by envy, ignorance, and the desire for superiority. These three forces, combined or isolated, cause certain people to belittle others in order to feel better about themselves. That's why the first lesson in respect lies not in the answer we give, but in being clear about the other person's real motivation. If you understand that disrespect usually comes from someone else's need for affirmation, you can stop seeing it as a personal attack and start seeing it as a reflection of the other person's weakness. Schopenhauer said that the common man reacts, the wise man observes, and this is one of the keys to dealing with disrespect. Often, when someone attacks us verbally, our first reaction is to respond in kind. We want to defend ourselves, prove our point, or even hit back. But according to Schopenhauer, those who react with anger or resentment hand over control of the situation to the other person. If you get angry, the other person realizes that they have managed to affect you. And if they were looking for exactly that reaction, they just got what they wanted. The real demonstration of strength is not in reacting immediately, but in knowing when not to react. Silence and observation can be much more powerful weapons than words. When you don't respond in a hurry, but maintain a strategic pause, you send a subtle message: your words don't affect me. That in itself turns the psychological tables. Schopenhauer saw life as a kind of theater, where each individual plays a role. In the game of respect and disrespect, there are those who try to impose themselves by force, and those who know how to position themselves intelligently. The simple act of observing and maintaining a firm posture can be more impactful than any verbal response. Often disrespect doesn't come directly, but disguised as a joke. What seems like a harmless joke can actually be a subtle attempt to diminish your position in front of others. Schopenhauer saw this kind of behavior as a power play. The person making the joke is testing their limits, trying to see how far they can go without being resisted. If you react angrily or feel uncomfortable, they realize they've got what they want. The point here is not about having a sense of humor or not, but about identifying when a joke has a malicious intent. The good news is that there are effective ways of dealing with this without losing your composure, and without escalating the conflict unnecessarily. When an offensive joke is made at your expense, the worst thing you can do is have an immediate emotional reaction. If you get angry or try to hit back quickly, you give the other person the validation they wanted. If you get embarrassed or dismiss it out of hand, you allow the situation to repeat itself. The ideal response is neither aggressive confrontation nor submission. The key is strategic control of the situation. Schopenhauer teaches us that the best way to deal with someone else's mediocrity is to make them realize their own ridiculousness. And one of the most subtle and effective ways of doing this is to force the person to repeat the joke. A simple, but extremely effective trick is to look directly at the person who made the comment and calmly ask, "Excuse me, can you repeat that?" I didn't hear correctly. This seemingly innocent response creates a problem for the teaser. When a joke needs to be repeated, it loses its initial impact. The spontaneous tone disappears, and the aggressor finds themselves in the uncomfortable position of having to reinforce their own rudeness. What happens in most cases? The person realizes that they no longer have the public's support, because repeating the joke makes it sound forced and unfunny. They may try to change the subject, laughing nervously, realizing that their attempt to diminish you has failed. If she insists, the embarrassment can turn against her, as it becomes clear that the intention was never a joke, but a veiled attack. This method works because it puts the responsibility for the situation on the person who made the comment, and not on you. You didn't attack, you didn't shout, you didn't hit back. You just shone the light of conscience on the other person's attitude. Schopenhauer believed that human behavior is guided by social expectations and standards. If someone makes an offensive joke, they expect you to be embarrassed, react angrily, or try to hit back. When you act in an unexpected way, by asking them to repeat it or staying calm, you completely diffuse this expectation. This causes the provocateur to lose control of the situation and often end up backing down. The big mistake many people make is thinking they need to defend themselves more aggressively. In reality, those who manage to stay in control and intelligently turn the situation around come out much stronger. Another common mistake when dealing with offensive jokes is to use sarcasm or irony to hit back. Although this may seem like a way of standing up for yourself, in practice it only fuels the other person's game. Sarcasm can be interpreted as a sign of resentment, and the person who made the joke may continue to insist on provoking you further. Responding with irony can turn the interaction into an unnecessary clash, when the real power lies in showing that it simply doesn't affect you. If, for some reason, you want to give an answer without going into the subject, you can simply say with a slight smile and a neutral tone, "Interesting. You've always been good at trying to be funny, haven't you?" This response has a double effect. You don't show upset, but you don't completely ignore the situation either. The other person realizes that your attempt at a joke failed and didn't generate the expected reaction. At the end of the day, dealing with offensive jokes isn't about winning a verbal debate. It's about showing that your self-confidence is intact. If you get angry, you lose. Those who try to counterattack prolong the game. Those who maintain their composure automatically become superior to the provocation. Schopenhauer believed that those who are unaffected by the opinions of others have a power that few possess. If you learn to remain calm, serene, and in control, the people around you will inevitably respect you more. And best of all, you never have to ask for this respect. It comes naturally. Schopenhauer said that the world is full of petty people who try to assert themselves by demeaning others. Often, these people don't just want to disrespect you occasionally, but make a habit of it. They test your limits, constantly tease you, and try to get you involved in pointless arguments in order to feel superior. The truth is that certain people live on manipulation and conflict. The more attention and reaction they receive, the more motivated they become to continue provoking. But there's a secret that Schopenhauer knew more than a century ago. The best way to win this game is not to play it. The most effective way to deal with manipulative people and frequent provocateurs is not to try to beat them in an argument. After all, those who constantly seek to provoke others aren't interested in logical arguments. They just want attention and control over the situation. So instead of reacting directly, do something completely unexpected. Change the subject abruptly. If someone tries to unsettle you, don't show annoyance and without any sign of defense, say something completely out of context. By the way, does anyone know where there's a good cafe around here? Have you seen the weather forecast for tomorrow? Speaking of which, have you tried that new restaurant? This technique works because it completely breaks the flow of the conversation and takes the power away from the manipulator. The provocateur expects you to react angrily, justify yourself, or defend yourself. But when you ignore the provocation and simply change the topic, he loses control of the situation and doesn't know how to continue. It destabilizes the provocateur. The person who is trying to manipulate you doesn't expect you to completely ignore the provocation attempt and carry on as if nothing had happened. This creates a moment of confusion for them. It shows that you are not easily swayed. If you don't take any notice of the provocation, you automatically send out the message that you are not on the same level as the manipulator. It prevents the conflict from going any further. Often the only thing a provocateur wants is to drag you into an argument. By not playing along, you end the conflict before it even starts. This strategy is particularly powerful when other people are watching. If you fight back, you can end up looking as emotional as the manipulator. If you shut up completely, you can appear to be submissive to the provocation. But when you deflect to an unexpected subject naturally, it creates an instinctive reaction in the surrounding group. People realize that you haven't bothered and that the provocateur has lost the game. Often, the manipulator will be seen as childish and lacking in arguments, while you remain the balanced and superior person in the conversation. Schopenhauer said that wasting energy trying to convince ignorant people or fighting with provocateurs was a waste of our intellectual and emotional potential. He saw society as a great theater, where some people lower themselves to the role of agitators, while others choose to maintain their dignity and not get involved in unnecessary spectacles. If someone is constantly trying to provoke you, remember, you are under no obligation to respond to every provocation. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Your best response may be well-applied indifference. After all, respect isn't earned through conflict. It's earned through intelligence and self-control. Have you ever noticed that some people, even without saying a word, command respect just by the way they present themselves? This doesn't happen by chance. Confidence is not just a state of mind, but a silent language that others pick up on instantly. If you want to be respected, you first need to show that you respect yourself. And that starts with the small details of everyday life. Schopenhauer said that the way we move and position ourselves in the world reflects our essence. A bent body, slumped shoulders and hesitant steps convey insecurity and submission. An upright posture, with shoulders aligned and gaze fixed on the horizon, communicates self-confidence and presence. When you enter an environment, do so calmly and confidently. Don't walk hurriedly or with insecure gestures. This conveys anxiety. Keep your chin slightly elevated. This shows dignity and firmness. Your posture not only influences how others see you, but also how you feel about yourself. Psychologically, when we assume a confident posture, our brain interprets this as a sign of strength and security. Small gestures in everyday life make all the difference to how others perceive us. The firm handshake. Schopenhauer saw the handshake as a silent contract between two people. If it's loose, it conveys weakness. If it's too strong, it suggests aggression. The ideal is a firm, balanced shake. Greeting without hesitation. When you greet someone, do so in a safe and direct manner. Don't wait for the other person to take the initiative. Be the first to act. Slow, controlled speech. Insecure people speak quickly and try to fill the silence with unnecessary words. Speak slowly, clearly, and without haste. This conveys authority and serenity. Think of the great leaders and philosophers of history. They didn't need to raise their voices to be heard. Their presence and the way they expressed themselves was enough for them to be respected. Schopenhauer believed that the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and that avoiding the gaze of others is a sign of submission. When talking to someone, keep your gaze steady, but not aggressive. Avoiding eye contact or quickly looking away can give the impression of insecurity or fear. But be careful. Eye contact should be natural without seeming intimidating or excessive. If someone tries to intimidate you, don't look away immediately. Hold it for a second longer than expected. This shows that you don't feel inferior and that you're comfortable in your own skin. Ultimately, the key to gaining respect lies in a single principle. If you don't respect yourself, others won't either. If you move hesitantly, others notice. If you avoid the gaze of others, you come across as submissive. If your voice shakes or you speak too quickly, it seems that you don't have confidence in what you're saying. But when you take control of your posture, your gestures, and your gaze, others sense it immediately. Respect manifests itself even before the first word is spoken. Schopenhauer teaches us that people perceive those who are in control of themselves and respect them instinctively. If you want the world to see you as someone of value, start sending that message through your daily behavior. Schopenhauer said that the wise man chooses his battles and never wears himself out with people who aren't worth it. He saw life as a field where many disputes are fought not out of necessity, but out of pride, vanity, or a desire for control. However, one of the greatest signs of intelligence isn't winning every battle. It's knowing which ones aren't even worth fighting. We often wear ourselves out trying to get respect in places that don't value us, or trying to convince people who simply don't want to see our value. The truth is that respect cannot be demanded. It must be recognized naturally by others. And when this doesn't happen, the best response is not to argue, but to withdraw. It's common to cling to certain social circles, jobs, or relationships because we feel we have something to prove. We want to be accepted. We want people to recognize our value. But Schopenhauer teaches us a hard and necessary lesson. Not all environments are worthy of your presence. If a place constantly devalues your words, your experience, and your essence, why continue there? If the people around you make you feel small, why insist on being accepted by them? Society often teaches us that insisting is synonymous with strength. But the truth is that knowing when to walk away takes a lot more courage than continuing to fight for something that is already lost. There are people who, no matter what you do, will always find a way to devalue you. They don't need concrete reasons. The mere fact that you exist bothers them. Some people treat you badly not because you've done anything wrong, but because your presence reminds them of what they're not. The problem isn't with you, it's with them, and you don't have to carry that burden. Strategic distancing is not weakness, but intelligence. Staying close to those who constantly belittle you only saps your energy and your self-esteem. If someone insists on belittling you, the best response is not to try to convince them otherwise. It's simply to walk away and let the absence speak for itself. Schopenhauer believed that silence and absence are powerful forms of communication. When you stop trying to explain yourself, people realize that they no longer have control over you. When you walk away without resentment, but firmly, others understand that they have lost something valuable. When you stop arguing and simply go on your way, the weight of your absence speaks louder than any argument. We often become obsessed with the idea of proving our worth, of winning one last argument, of showing someone that they were wrong about us. But true respect doesn't come from a one debate. It comes from the dignity we show by choosing where we want to be and who we want to relate to. If you value yourself, others will have to respect your absence. And when they realize that you are no longer available, many will finally understand the value they had and lost. Schopenhauer believed that true freedom and respect do not come from the approval of others, but from emotional and mental independence. For him, the man who needs no one is the most powerful of all. We live in a society where many spend their lives trying to please, seeking recognition and worrying about other people's opinions. The problem with this: the more you depend on the acceptance of others, the more vulnerable you become. The great truth is that people respect those who aren't constantly trying to be accepted. Those who act self-sufficiently convey an aura of security and authority that others perceive and instinctively respect. Schopenhauer teaches us that the less you need others, the more respected you will be. From an early age, we are conditioned to believe that our happiness and value depend on social acceptance. We seek praise, recognition, and validation. But Schopenhauer warned that this search is a trap. Those who live to please others end up losing their own essence. People's opinions are volatile. One day they admire you, the next they ignore you. True respect comes from within, not from outside. Those who constantly need to be approved by others become slaves to other people's expectations. And what's worse? People often only respect those who aren't trying to be respected. That's why Schopenhauer said that the wisest man is the one who finds satisfaction within himself without depending on the gaze of others. Emotional independence is one of the pillars of self-sufficiency. If you depend on the mood of others to feel good, you will never have true peace. If your self-esteem varies according to how people treat you, you will always be vulnerable. If you wait for others to recognize your value before believing in it, you'll be stuck with external approval. A self-reliant person doesn't need anyone, To tell them they're important, they already know it. And this internal conviction is reflected in their attitudes, their posture, and the way they interact with the world. And here's an interesting paradox. When you stop seeking approval, people naturally start to respect you. Schopenhauer said that he who controls his emotions can never be controlled by anyone. If someone provokes you but you remain calm, they realize that they have no power over you. If someone tries to diminish you but you don't get upset, it is clear that your confidence doesn't depend on outside opinions. If they try to manipulate you, but you don't give in, you become someone who can't be dominated. Inner peace is the most powerful weapon there is. When you don't let yourself be affected by provocation, criticism, or rejection, people start to see you differently. The world respects those who are firm in their own essence, without needing external validation. In the end, Schopenhauer teaches us that the secret of respect lies in independence. The less you need others, the stronger you become. The less you care about other people's opinions, the more others begin to care about you. The more you control your emotions, the less anyone can control you. If you want respect, stop desperately seeking it. Strengthen your self-sufficiency, and the world will begin to see your true value. Schopenhauer said that experience and time teach us more than any book. For him, maturity shows us something that youth rarely understands. Not everything needs to be faced, and not everyone deserves our attention. Over time, we learn that true respect is not demanded, it is built. And it's often only recognized once you've moved on, without having to prove anything to anyone. If you've ever tried to convince someone of your worth and not been heard, if you've ever dealt with people who disrespected or underestimated you, know that time has its own way of putting things right. The secret? Don't waste your energy trying to change others. Go your own way and let life teach you what needs to be learned. One of Schopenhauer's great lessons is that trying to change people is one of the most useless ways of wearing yourself out emotionally. People only change when they are ready to change. You can spend hours trying to convince someone to respect you, but if they don't have the ability to see your value, nothing you say will make a difference. Instead of arguing and trying to prove something, use your energy to strengthen your own journey. Time teaches you more than any argument. Some people will only realize how valuable you were once they are no longer around. Schopenhauer said that recognition often comes late, but it does come. How many times have you seen someone undervalued, only to be remembered with admiration years later? This is because people often don't immediately see what's in front of them. When you don't seek approval but go about your life with firmness and dignity, time takes care of showing who really had value. Many people only appreciate value when they realize they have lost something important. Silence and absence do more for your recognition than any argument could ever do. If someone has disrespected you, don't worry about demanding recognition. Just carry on. Time has a funny way of making the same people who ignored you in the past admire you in the future. Schopenhauer believed that patience is one of the greatest signs of wisdom. Young people often want to solve everything immediately, respond to every provocation, win every argument. But over time, we learn that serenity and patience are much more powerful than any direct confrontation. If there's one lesson that time teaches, it's this: don't live to prove anything to anyone. Those who ignore you today may, in the future, admire you, and you won't even have to be there to see it. If there's one thing we can learn from Schopenhauer, it's that the way we react to the world defines how the world treats us back. So before closing, let's recall the main points. Respect comes from posture and behavior, not words. What you do matters more than what you say. Anyone who loses emotional control loses the game. If someone can get you off track, they have power over you. Not every battle is worth fighting. Know when to walk away. There are silent victories that are much more powerful than endless arguments. The less you need others, the stronger you become. Emotional and mental independence. Make others view you with admiration and respect. Now I ask you, which of these lessons made the most sense to you? Leave a comment and share your experience. Your point of view may inspire others who are also seeking self-knowledge. If you liked the video, like and subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to hear these reflections. Stay well. See you in the next video.